How many innuendos can we do in one episode?
Well, it is you and me, so...
Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome. That was very high. Hello, welcome to Musical Talk. My name is my name is Nick Hutson. We're doing a lovely episode today that my co-presenter and I have been working on behind the scenes feverishly. This is the first time in history that Andrew Edwards, hello Andrew.
Hello, how you doing?
That you've put more effort into an episode than I have.
I know, it's a miracle, isn't it?
I know, we've been doing this show since 2008. Or 6 or whatever it is, and this is your more interviews in this episode than you've done one.
I think I've done one ever, yeah. Hey-ho.
With Corey English from the producers.
Oh, lovely Corey English, lovely. Yeah, what I want to do, once lockdown's over and the theatres have reopened again, I'd like to review more shows up here, because we've got quite a few, we have a lot of theatres up here, and some that do, sort of the out-of-town tryouts, and, things like Jamie at the Sheffield, that, opened in Sheffield and things like that. And so I think I'm going to try and do some more reviews for the podcast up here, because I'm obviously based up north now, so I do like Manchester. We've got obviously the Buxton Opera House, there's 2 Sheffield theatres. We've got some lovely theatre scene up here, so I think I'm going to try and review some more stuff once we know what's going on with the theatres.
Some people would argue that Derbyshire isn't really up north.
It's Midlands.
Yeah, it's north of Watford, so it's north to you and me, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, it's the north. It's so funny.
Where they speak funny.
Hey, you're at Duck.
So this episode, we are doing something, a kind of massive community effort, where I and you reached out to people, quote, in the industry, to send us little tiny messages saying what they'd been up to during this time. So we got some wonderful voices you're going to hear in this episode. Some are discussions that you've had with friends of yours. Some are people that very kindly just sent us tiny messages recorded on their phone from them sitting in their sofa, probably. But first, Andrew, tell us what you've been up to in this time.
Myself, not much. I've just been trying to get out and exercise, within the letter of the law, as it were, just trying to set my half an hour, with the dog each day. So what we've been doing, Caroline's been doing half an hour with the dog in the morning, and I've been doing half an hour with the dog in the afternoon, and now we can go out a bit more, I think. So obviously I'm quite lucky because I'm in the countryside, so I can go on a walk where I don't see anyone, literally. I can just, stay in fields where there isn't anyone else. So I'm very, very lucky in that respect. But I do feel sorry for my friends that are in London without balconies even, and they're just stuck inside. It must be very, very difficult at the moment. But I have to say I am one of the lucky ones, because I have got lots and lots of space to to sort of get outside and get about. But so that's what I've been doing, really. I started a band with a few of my friends from back home. I started learning the bass guitar at the beginning of the year. So I said to my friends, because they're like musicians, a couple of them are guitarists and things like that. So we started a rock band just for a bit of something to do, really. And we've recorded a single, and the lovely Timothy Hode has mixed it for us. So that's cool. So that will be out, I think, in June. We're actually going to release that for a bit, just a bit of a lockdown, something to do.
Yes, I'm doing something like that as well myself.
What have you been up to, Nick?
Well, doing a lot of the podcast, which is great. I've done a lot of the theme park podcast, which is good fun. I did about 10 episodes of that quite quickly because everyone's around, which is why I thought now would be a good time to do this episode with lots of people kind of sending in their thoughts on the situation. I've been doing a lot of writing, and this is a theme you'll see from a lot of the people that have contributed to this episode, a lot of cooking. And just kind of wandering around, and I found the other day a bit of Chiswick that I haven't really seen.
That was the poshest thing I think you've ever said to me. I'm finding new places in Chiswick. I think that was maybe the poshest thing I've ever heard you say.
There was I saw a building the other day that was from... I got a photograph of it. Let me just have a look. You'll like this because it's old. It's called the Old Burlington, and it was found in the 15th century.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Chiswick... This is weird. You're from Devonshire, where Chiswick and Devonshire have a kind of close relationship, don't they?
Yeah, because of the Duke, is that?
Yes. But anyway, enough about history, because I know that you can talk about history for as much as you want. Let's go on with some of these lovely inserts that people have been very kind to send. So the first one, we're going to go through them in alphabetical order because we don't want to have any favourites, is with our good friend, Andrew Corcoran.
Lovely Corkers, we love him.
Andrew Corcoran came on the podcast and has been a guest on the podcast for many, many years. He's an MD, but then very, very strangely, he was doing a show that you were involved with, wasn't he?
Yes, he was in White Christmas. In fact, we did a podcast together from Manchester.
With Aled Jones.
Aled Jones, and who else? There's a few other people. Yeah, it was a lovely episode, that was. I really enjoyed putting that one together. Yeah, we had Adam Cooper on it as well, I believe.
Yeah. So sorry, you've done 2 interviews in the past.
Well, technically, I think we had 4 people in the room, so
yes.
I'm just going to go on a technicality there.
So let's hear what Andrew has to say.
I'm Andrew Corcoran, a musician and musical director for over 15 years, and you may remember me from episodes of MusicalTalk years ago. I was on the Beautiful tour when lockdown hit. In fact, at the time, all theatres closed. I was staying at my parents' on my way to the next venue, and this is where I've stayed ever since. They're in the Cheshire countryside, so I thought, why wouldn't you? I know how lucky I have been to have family around, and I've spent the time learning new recipes and getting fitter with a combination of Joe Wicks and a running app, and attempting to get better acquainted with music software so that as and when I'm in a position to send work out from my laptop. I mean, as the vast majority of my career has been spent in an orchestra pit or a rehearsal room, these past few weeks have been a good chance to acquaint myself with other aspects of being a musician, I suppose, and shore up a bit of piano technique. I won't lie, though, I'm taking it slow and steady, especially as my sister's toddler has been around and has been desperate to join me at the piano. It's hard to plan too far ahead, though. It's quite strange for someone like me who usually checks the diary every day, but I found that I've experienced a clear-headedness during all of this that I don't think I've felt since my school days, with the expectation of forging ahead from one project to the next being suddenly removed, for the time being at least. I'll be back in an orchestra pit soon, and I can't wait to collaborate in what's going to be, on its return, an industry chomping at the bit to wow audiences once again. I hope all of you out there are keeping some semblance of sanity. Don't forget, we're all in this together. Stay at home for the NHS. Keep washing your hands, and I'll see you on the other side of all of this.
Andrew Corcoran there, thank you so much for sending that in. What are your memories from White Christmas and Andrew?
Well, I loved it. I think I did White Christmas 4 times, 4 or 5. I can't remember how many times I didn't know. It's one of those shows I just used to do every year. I did it the first time just after I left We Will Rock You. I went straight into rehearsals for White Christmas, and it was a wonderful show. Just gave you a warm, fuzzy feeling. And I remember the director used to say to us, the only bad thing that happens is a misunderstanding. It's all joyous. You know what I mean? There's nothing bad. It was wonderful. And we did. We did Plymouth, we did Southampton, Liverpool, Dublin, Sunderland, the Lowry. I did quite a few venues with that. It was over the years. It was a wonderful show.
People often get it confused with Holiday Inn, don't they?
Well, I believe it's the same. The Holiday Inn was first, wasn't it? And then they did White Christmas mainly because the song was so memorable. But they say it's the most famous song ever written, even more famous than Happy Birthday, White Christmas. Wow. And it's wonderful because everyone gets the words wrong to the most famous song ever written. You always come to the second verse and you go, which bit is it now we're singing?
Well, it's like the national anthem. No one knows beyond the first verse.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Next, we're going to hear from a friend of mine called Chris Cox, who is, he would explain it, but he is an illusionist, but he's a musical theatre fan, big fan of the podcast, so here's what he has been up to.
Hello, this is Chris Cox. I starred in The Illusionists at the Shaftesbury Theatre over the summer, and then starred on Broadway in the show, and was in Impossible at the Noel Coward Theatre for a few years as well. I'm a mind reader who does his stuff on stage, and I'm doing nothing like everyone. I was in the middle of a US tour which got cancelled because of COVID-19, so I'm now back at home. I'm trying to work a bit. I'm trying to do some development of ideas. I'm doing some consulting, so if anyone is interested in a magic and theatrical consultant, then I'm your guy because I'm sat around doing nothing else. It'll be nice. Other than that, I'm kind of just trying to watch some stuff on YouTube, some of the live performances, and trying to enjoy some of the downtime without being too stressed about money. But obviously, the longer this goes on, the more stressed we become. That's sort of it. Nothing exciting to report. Shame, really. But I mean, has anyone got anything exciting to report right now? I saw a squirrel outside the window. That was pretty exciting.
Chris Cox there. Thank you, Chris, for that insert, for inserting Chris Cox here.
And he disappeared just like that.
Next is a lovely friend of mine called Damitri Lampra. Now, before we started this, you said you know Damitri.
I don't know him. I know him by reputation because obviously I'm working at Alton Towers now as a singer in the hotels. For those that don't know, if you do come and stay at Alton Towers, do keep a lookout for me on in the hotels there, singing away and hosting game shows and all sorts. And Damitri used to work there, so everyone sort of talks about Damitri. Although I actually haven't met him in person. I know him by reputation, and I've seen a lot of his material through videos and what have you in our groups on Facebook and things like that. So, but yes, I do know of him, yes.
But he was also in the UK tour of Kinky Boots.
Kinky Boots, yes.
And he has also done Aladdin, where not the West End production, but a pantomime of Aladdin where he played the genie. And we actually had him and David Herzog, whom we'll hear of next, doing an interview together, which is so strange. I think they went to the same college with an actor called Pete Cliff, who also used to work at Alton Towers. So it's all very incestuous, all these worlds meeting.
Yeah. I hear Pete Cliff's voice pretty much every day when I'm working because he's got loads of voiceovers around the hotel. You push buttons and things talk, and you say, everyone goes, "Oh, that's Pete Cliff."
Like you go into the toilet and the mirror speaks to you or something and says, "Hey, beautiful." Yeah. But anyway, let's hear what Damitri has to say.
It's Damitri Lampra here, and I'm here to tell you what I've been up to in lockdown. So my daily routine, would you say, would be a morning exercise, whether that would be a walk or go for a little run around the fields near my house. Mostly watching films, reading books, looking after family members, cooking. I'm into my cooking and baking a lot at the moment, and also playing my computer with my friends online. So yeah, catching up with people, doing lots of quizzes. Some quizzes with my Aladdin friends, my panto mates. So just been keeping busy. I hope everyone is well in this lockdown and be safe and stay indoors.
Damitri there, thank you so much again for being part of this episode. How is working at Alton Towers, Andy?
I'm really enjoying it. I've done it. This is my would be my second season now in the hotels. Yeah, it's really good fun. I love the work. It's great. We're sort of restructuring it a lot at the moment. We had a meeting at the beginning of the year, sort of our yearly debrief, and they told us, I can't really reveal too much what we're doing, but we are doing a lot of work in the entertainment in the hotels. It would have been up by now. It would have been happening as we speak, had it not been for the lockdown. So I'm actually quite excited to get back to work, quite ready to get back to work, because I know that we've got a lot of exciting things happening in the hotels. And of course, we had a new entertainment venue, I think it was last year, with the there's like a teepee in the Enchanted Forest, so singers are going across there now as well. So we've got 3 venues in which my team get to sing in, and we've got a lovely team. One of the girls in my team, Leanne Fotheringham, has just released a single today as well, so do check that out. Leanne Fotheringham, I think you can follow her on Facebook, Leanne Official UK, I think it is. So do check that out, listeners. It's that's one of our singers at Towers.
Nice. And you've done pantomime as well there, haven't you?
Yes, I played the Sheriff over Christmas. That was great. The Sheriff of Nottingham. We did Robin Hood, and my good friend Tim Hode, who he played Robin Hood, who actually just mixed the single that I'll be releasing, which I just found out is being released on the 1st of June, hopefully. He mixed that for us, so he's wonderful, and he played Robin Hood. I played the Sheriff, and the lovely Beatrice Goodman, she played Maid Marian. It was wonderful. She's one of the other singers in the hotel as well, so it was great because we got a lot of outside people, but we also used a lot of the internal performers as well, which was brilliant. And of course our writer Kieran Kieran Kimberley, he also appeared as Friar Tuck. So those of you that know Kieran from, if you have, if you're into the theme park world, you'll probably recognise his name as well. He was our Friar Tuck, and he wrote it and directed it as well. So it was wonderful.
Was it full of lots of local jokes?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Also now going to hear from David Herzog, who is, we all know David. He is our regular American on the show, and here's what he has been up to.
So my thoughts on the pandemic, especially as a performer, have been really take this time and take care of yourself. That's what I have found to be my coping mechanism during this. This was actually something that I felt already as a performer, but actually my agent, God bless her, she sent this to all of us as well, saying, nothing is going on right now in the theater world, professionally speaking, or very little anyway. So don't feel like you have to play catch up with everything. So if I wanted to share any kind of words to help people cope through this time, it's just to remind you that it's okay just to take care of yourself and just to look after your physical well-being, the physical well-being of you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, and also your mental well-being. Feel free to take a vacation from just thinking about the business just for a little while. And then once you're ready to, reacclimate yourself towards everything, that's what all this wonderful stuff that you can stream for free or for less money than usual, that's when it's a good time to start going into that, because there is a plethora of that stuff. There are people, back in my home country of the U.S. who are doing these amazing theater-related podcasts and virtual theater, and all that stuff's great, but also don't forget that you have to look out for yourself first, especially if you are a professional in this industry and feel like you're getting left behind. We're all getting left behind right now at the moment, and that's okay. What's important is that we get through this disease together, and we will. And like I said, just look after yourself first and just give yourself a little vacation just to start off with everything. That's what I'd recommend to keep your spirits high and to cope during this time.
Thank you, David. Let's move on to Jake and Pippa of songwriting fame for The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole and lots of other things as well. They've been a big part of the podcast. We've covered them in Edinburgh and things, and Thos has interviewed them a lot. They sent us a message from one of their walks, so here's what they had to say.
Hello, it's Jake
and Pippa
here. We're the writers of The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. And Pippa, what have we been doing in lockdown?
Well, Jake, we are currently on a socially distanced walk around the beautiful green spots of Islington. We've been finding little streams that we didn't know existed, and
lovely
little parks, and trying to appreciate the joys in what's around us.
Today is actually the first day we've seen each other in 2 months, which I think is the longest time we've not seen each other in 11 years.
Very sentimental.
It's been brilliant.
What else have we been doing, Jake?
Watching Netflix.
Cooking.
Yes.
Doing a lot of quizzes.
What's the favourite thing you've eaten during lockdown?
Oh, that's a good question. I have learnt to appreciate some spicy food, which I don't normally do.
Don't like that. So maybe
going outside the box.
Did you watch Flowers for Mrs. Harris online?
Oh, I missed that.
Well, sorry, I think it's still there, but that was very good.
That was very good.
Anything else musical theatre related? This is a musical theatre
Saw
podcast.
in Wind in the Willows, which I didn't ever get to see at the Palladium. So that's
great! Yeah.
Watched Phantom, obviously.
Yes. And we have been trying to do a little bit of work.
We did a little song, didn't we, Jake?
We've done a song.
We did it. We contributed to the Corona.
And we have been talking about there is a new show.
There is a new show
coming up, but we've been talking about
lots and lots of chats,
there we
guys.
Go.
Yeah,
I think that's enough to get everyone
enjoy
excited.
your lockdown.
Yes, bye.
Bye.
It's interesting how the big cities will recover from this crisis, whatever you want to call it. I've heard that, obviously, sadly, a lot of shows won't make it beyond this. What do you think, Andrew?
Well, I've heard that as well. I've heard even Disney have closed a show, haven't they? So
Frozen closed on Broadway.
That's massive. That's massive because Frozen was a guaranteed hit. It was already a hit, and the fact that they've had to close it, I think that speaks volumes that Disney are doing it. But I think I saw that on your Facebook page. I think you put it on Facebook, and I was shocked when I saw that they won't be reopening it. Obviously, we have a lot of shows here in London that have been running for many years. Things like the Mousetrap. We're going to talk to Vicky later on, who was just literally just in the Mousetrap as well, and we're going to hear from her later on. I know that's been running for however long and years. And I mean, it's shows like that I feel scared for. Do you know what I mean? Things that if that has to go, then that's a massive part of our theatre heritage. But and also the little theatres, the smaller ones. I think we're going to have a little chat with Ralph later on, and he was talking about smaller theatres, and one that had to close. Well, not because of COVID, but because just before it happened. But I think a lot of those smaller theatres are going to struggle.
Yeah.
And also the Lyceum Theatre. What's happened to the Lyceum Theatre?
Oh, it drowned, didn't it?
Yeah, there was a lot of the roofs in the theatres, as we know, it's happened before, isn't it? In heavy rain, we know disasters have happened in a couple of the London theatres, especially the Edwardian ones for some reason. But the Lyceum, one of the major venues in Covent Garden, I think the pits filled with water, I believe, which is very sad to hear.
Kind of reminds me of the Palladium days when they could fill the stage with water.
Yeah, well, as you know, I performed at the Palladium. Half the building's condemned. You can't even use half of it. I think it's called they've got the Donkey Run and the Elephant Run. So as you go into the stage door, you turn left to the Donkey Run and right to the Elephant Run, basically the backstage corridor. And I don't think you can use the Elephant Run at all now because it's completely condemned. But it's a listed building, so it's a tough one. You can open the roof and all sorts in the Palladium.
You mentioned Frozen, which is meant to be coming to London this year. Obviously, Andrew Lloyd Webber is rebuilding the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, probably for its 8th time in its career. Yeah. I don't see that opening this year at all. Do you?
No, I can't see it reopening at all. I love that theatre. It's one of my favourite theatre that I've performed at, as you know. In fact, we met when I was performing at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, and its history. I used to go there on my walking tours a lot, talk about its history, and I love the fact that the Christopher Wren designed one version of the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, and that stayed there for about 111 years. And then when they knocked it down and rebuilt it, the version that Christopher Wren built, the new one only lasted about 6 years before it burned down, which was rather ironic, I thought. But there you go.
Yeah, this is proving that how fun this episode is. I've just got a recording now from my friend Dominic McChesney, whom we all know from the podcast. So I kind of have to go back on my alphabetical list and go back to D a bit. And here is what Dom has been up to.
Hello, this is Dominic McChesney, just recording my thoughts for Musical Talk. It is the 68th of Marchember, and the sun is shining, the sky is blue, and we're all in this rather strange, silly, nutty situation. When this happened, I was lucky enough to be in a play at the Union Theatre, a revival of Noel Coward's A Piece in Our Time. We'd done 3 performances, we were getting good reviews, and we sadly had to close. We do hope in the future that we will be able to continue with the run or revive it should the situation allow. We shall just have to wait and see. Since then, I've been also lucky enough to be part of a comedy drama murder mystery series called The Pogley Wood Murders. And all the actors have been recording their parts in self-isolation. We've had a few guest stars. There's going to be about 20 episodes in all before the end of the first season, and they can be found online. They've been great fun, and it's been really nice to have something to do. But one of the things that has struck me in the last couple of weeks is that when this happened, there was a tremendous pressure for creatives, for singers, for actors and writers to come up with creative content for social media, for YouTube channels, and to suddenly have Zoom play readings and everything. And there's some wonderful, wonderful things out there. And I think it's important to remember that if you really don't think you can come up with that, then give yourself a break and don't. It's absolutely okay to have a creative block at this time. And I think it's very important that as creatives we are easy on ourselves if we feel we're not ticking all the boxes or producing these things that we are feeling pressurized to do. I think we've reached the point where the songs about self-isolation have kind of peaked. I think we've gone past that now. I'm not really seeing anything new in those little comedy skits, but should you feel the need to produce it, do it. It's absolutely fine and it's great. But if you don't then that's fine too. I don't have any particular plans for the future. We shall wait and see what comes up. And but I hope everybody's safe, and we look forward to still producing Musical Talk episodes during the whole of this time. Bye.
So yes, New York is obviously it'd be interesting to see how that recovers. So my friend from New York, John Sweeney, has sent me this message, and we're going to play it right now.
Hey, Musical Talk fans. It's John Sweeney in New York, where we're hunkering down as we head into week 10 of our quarantine. Hope everybody out there is hanging in there and catching up on all of your listening and to watch films and TV shows and stuff. Here in New York, we're all just waiting for New York to reopen and Broadway to reopen. It's pretty grim, but I do think we'll recover, and I think we'll reopen and things will be different. And we'll make do with whatever the new normal throws at us. We've done it before, we'll do it again. And I'm sure it's the same in the West End. So I'd love to hear what everybody's doing to keep from going crazy as they stay home. I have been trying to reduce the pile of must-listen-to CDs and must-watch movies. So I'm watching a lot of movies, catching up on TV shows, and listening to my music. I guess we're all doing that to a certain extent.
We're going to go to one now that you, Andy, very kindly got us. Tell us about Kasja.
Oh, she's just an absolute one. She's a lovely, lovely girl, wonderful performer. I've been a leading lady in so many big productions. Just a little ball of energy. Every time she walks in a room, she lights it up, and you just have to smile when she talks to you. She's just the most beautiful, wonderful person. And my partner Karis, it's one of her sort of groups of friends. In a little group of girls, it's one of the girls from there, and she's just wonderful. I was very grateful. And do you know what? When I listened to this message, it really uplifted me that day, because I was a bit down, if I'm honest, when I got the message from her. I was feeling a little down, and just hearing her talk about this, it was lovely. It was actually a lovely message.
So this is Kasja Hammarlund, is that the name?
Yes.
Lovely.
Hello and greetings from Southwark Park in sunny Bermondsey, London, where I, Kasja Hammarlund, or COVID Kasja, the herd immunising Hammarlund, is sitting in the sun having a lovely day, contemplating the fate of humanity and the arts. I, alongside everyone else, is being a good girl and staying in and baking and pickling and cooking and clearing out my drawers, literally. And yeah, just trying to make sense of this tricky period. I was supposed to be in Spain filming right now, something that I started at the beginning of this year. A period drama about St. Francis of Assisi. Hopefully this is just postponed and we will be able to return soon. But in the meantime, what do we do? How can we help? I mean, we can help each other by being in contact, I think. That's what's helped me so far. Being in contact with your peers and talking about it. A lot of the theatres are doing great talks, on Zoom. Everyone's a Zoom expert now. Spotlight and Equity have been great in putting out material out there together with a lot of casting directors. So you can meet casting directors online, you can practice your monologues and self-tape skills. And I think talking about equity, I think that's really, really important for me, and I believe for all of us at this time, to actually be stronger together and join the unions, because this is when we need them. And I know plenty of people who've been helped economically from equity by getting, emergency funds from the Acting for Others and the benevolent funds. And if we can try and pay back into that and help each other out, I think that's a great thing to do at the moment. I think it's also okay to not feel panicked about being productive. It's easy to get anxious when you see people putting their productive days out there on social media, and I think it's also okay just to not do anything for a day. Read a book, or maybe just listen to your favourite musical theatre album from beginning to end. That's being creative too. I miss theatre. I even miss the smell of Pineapple Dance Studios. And I miss the butterflies in my stomach before an audition. And I miss the hushed, excited silence when the lights go down in the stalls and the curtain comes up. I miss my friends, and I want to hug every single one of them. But we'll be back, bigger and stadier and lovelier than before, because you cannot kill the arts. We need it. The world needs it. And in these dark times, that's my hope for the future. Until the curtain rises. All my love.
Thank you, Kasja, and thank you to everyone who has, we're nearly halfway through now, but thank you to everyone who has taken minutes out of their life to record these messages, including Katy Richardson, who is the MD of Six, a show a lot of people miss. We're going to be hearing from her next week, along with Toby Marlowe and Lucie Moss, the writers of Six. Here's what Katy had to say about what she's up to.
Hi, I'm Katy Richardson, and I'm spending lockdown drinking a lot of coffee and quite a lot of gin and tonics, and trying to be creative wherever possible, but also giving myself the space to have a rest, catch up on Netflix, and just sort of do what I need to do. I think that's all we can do, really, is give ourselves the space to do what we need, and be creative where we can. Also baked quite a lot of cakes. Don't know if anyone else has.
We have to, West End royalty, we have to now hear from the lovely Kerry Ellis. But before we hear from Kerry Ellis, here is a message from a good friend of ours whom we had on 2 weeks ago on the podcast, Mr. Mike Dixon, because Kerry Ellis is royalty and she deserves a special introduction, and here is that from Mike.
The legendary Kerry Ellis. You get all the best gigs, Nick. My very, very best to dear Kerry, and all those happy times that we had on We Will Rock You, and of course the things that we did for Alexander Bermange and various other strange things that we've done over the years. Brilliant. Have a great podcast.
Hello everyone, it's Kerry Ellis here. So my thoughts on the situation right now is trying to stay positive, trying to stay active, balancing family and enjoying time, spending quality time with them, and also putting my focus and energy into my new podcast, Keep Calm and Carry On, speaking to some incredible people in the industry about their highs and lows and what their situation is like right now. I'm also working on a book, trying to keep myself active and engaged. And preparing for when we do come out of this and get ready for the performance of a lifetime.
Thank you, Kerry. Now we're on to the kind of list, a couple of interviews that you have done, Andy. Yes. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy, busy life to do these.
Not very busy at the moment.
Tell us about Matt Brinkler.
Matt Brinkler, oh, he's wonderful. I think I kind of in the interview we kind of cover that, but myself and Matt, we met on Pantomime Bridlington, and we all the boys shared a dressing room, and he was one side of me, and the lovely Arthur Bostrom was the other side of me. From those of you who know him from Hello Hello, Good Mooning, the policeman, and so I had Arthur and Matt either side of me, and we just screamed with laughter every day. We found a way to just make the whole dressing room was lovely, but to have those two very special people next to me was absolutely lovely. And Matt, just every time again, he's one of those faces that you can't help but smile when you look at him, because he's just so happy all the time, and he's very positive, lovely person. And he's a producer, and he does some wonderful shows as well. A lot of sort of pop, because he's really into pop music, so he's bringing sort of pop music to musicals as well. And to hear his passion and to talk about what he does is wonderful.
Cool. Well, here is your chat with Matt Brinkler.
So we have Mr. Matt Brinkler here. How are you, Matt?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, it's lovely to hear your voice. For those, for listeners that don't know, me, myself and Matt, we did Panto together. I can't remember what year it was now. About 2015 or something, I think it was.
Time flies, yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah, in Bridlington. And Matt, you played Peter Pan.
I did, flying about the stage.
And what do you do now, Matt? Just briefly tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, by the time we did Peter Pan together, I'd already started my bits of producing, discovering that moving into the producing side was actually a real passion for me, that brought the same feeling as walking onto the stage for that first show of a run. And also the possibility of actually making good money. Now, that isn't necessarily true. Producers aren't walking around filled with cash in their pockets, sadly. We are working away passionately to create theatre as much as the next person, so there are always highs and lows. But now I'm a full-time producer.
That's fantastic. And what kind of shows are you doing at the moment? What kind of shows have you done?
Well, my passion comes from panto, or I'd love to do panto one day, but it's mainly comedy. And then I can produce music shows as well. So we have the Spice Girls musical Wannabe. That was very excitedly set to tour Australia in a couple of months' time, which is now up in the air like everybody else. But we have fantastic comedy shows, a lot of girls' night out stuff like Hormonal Housewives, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which is a piece of new writing. With starring Linda Nolan, Nikki Evans, and Jess Wright, and Leanne Jones, who I hadn't seen around for ages since Hairspray. So she's fabulous to work with. They were set to be out at the moment, but we are rescheduling for this autumn or for next year if we need to. So it is all good fun. The company's called Red Entertainment, and I always just say it's good fun at Red.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you for that. Now, so obviously we're in lockdown at the moment, and this is obviously a lockdown special. So we want to sort of find out what people are doing from different, all different sorts of theatre angles. So producers, directors, choreographers, we want to speak to as many people as we can. And obviously you being a producer, how are you finding the lockdown?
It's a lot of work, if I'm honest.
Really?
It's good. Not all about sitting outside. I am not only rescheduling to make sure that my actors, actresses, all the cast, crew, my creatives all have something to look forward to and something to do next year, but also my entire staff team. We have to sustain a company. So with everyone on furlough, with no income, it's simply what you have to do. It comes down to the company directors to just maintain and monitor what's going on, and I'm in weekly meetings with about 45 other producers around the West End and around the country, and we are campaigning and fighting for change on behalf of the whole industry, alongside UK theatre, alongside the unions like BEC2 and the MU, and Equity as well.
Fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful to hear that, you're working so hard and you're doing it on other people's behalf as well. That's a really good thing to do. That's brilliant.
Well, one thing I would say is that the producers that I talk to every week there's been no negative comments about any other form of work throughout the industry. So it's all been, how do we support these people, but how do we also stay solvent ourselves? So it's been about fairness, and it's been about moving forwards together, both the producers, the venues, and then how we can help everyone else that supports theatre, from the actors to backstage, and agents and casting and everyone.
That's absolutely fantastic. Matt, thank you so much for your input. That was really, really insightful. And thank you so much again for working so hard on all of everyone's behalf. And it's great to hear that all the producers are in it together. That's wonderful.
Pleasure.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you, Andrew.
Moving swiftly on, we're going to talk about and hear from Michael Quinn.
Oh, the lovely. So Michael Quinn, we go way back. We went to college together. We were on Beauty and the Beast together. He was Gaston when I was in the ensemble of Beauty and the Beast on the UK tour, the Disney show. And me and Michael go back to about 1999, I think, when we first met each other. So he's a really good friend of mine.
And also with Charlie Brunton was on that tour, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right, Charlie Brunton. We had loads of amazing performers on that tour. We had Nick Greenshields, of course, playing the Beast. Now probably most famous for being in, Young Frankenstein, of course, and he was Javert in Les Mis like all the time. He's amazing. Katy Rowley-Jones was in the original cast of Wicked in the West End. Some wonderful names on that show.
And apparently Beauty and the Beast, there's stories of it coming back to the West End, which would be wonderful.
Yes, I've heard rumours of that. Another one, Tanya Newton was Mrs. Potts. She was wonderful as well. Mark Inscoe playing Lumiere, Adam Stafford as Cogsworth. Some lovely, wonderful performers. And that year was one of my favourite years I've ever spent in my life, touring around the country doing my favourite Disney show. And I never missed the overture. I always came down, even though I wasn't really needed. I'd come down to the side of the stage to listen to that beautiful overture every single show. I never missed it. So I have on the line now Mr. Michael Quinn. Michael Quinn, how are you?
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. Dealing with lockdown, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough for everyone, isn't it? It's difficult. So for listeners that don't know, Michael Quinn and I went to college together. We were at Lane together, and we were very lucky also to go on tour with Disney's Beauty and the Beast. And Michael, who did you play in that?
I played the baddie, Mr. Gaston.
Did you enjoy that part?
I loved it. I mean, I didn't enjoy falling off a wall every night, a tower every night. But yeah, I loved it. It was amazing.
We were just, before we started recording, listeners, we were talking about when, Michael, you actually fell off and they forgot to place your crash mat.
Yeah, they did. It was at Eastbourne, Congress Theatre, nearly ended my career.
Before it even started.
They literally, it was the dress rehearsal, the crash mat wasn't there. It's fine, because luckily I'm still like best friends with the producer, Martin Dodd, so it's fine.
Brilliant. And so what have you been up to since Beauty and the Beast all those years ago? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, as you know, I obviously went on to be in many different musicals, so I was really fortunate. And the last big show I did, I played my dream role of Greaseball in Andrew Lloyd Webber's production of Starlight Express out in Bochum in Germany. Played the role for 2.5 years and kind of just ticked that one off the bucket list because that was the dream role.
Yeah.
And then after that, I kind of, I used to have a company years ago, but I set up a new production company called Michael Quinn Productions. We created a show called The Roller Boys, which had really great success, and it's been running now for 4 years. We've taken it all over the world, from cruise ships to out in the UAE. We were the first ever show to perform on the QE2 out in Dubai with a company as well. And we've now sort of like built loads of different shows and acts with Michael Quinn Productions. And then going on from that, I've now opened my own theatrical agency, which is a Q Management Agency. And we're a small boutique agency at the moment, representing people in TV, theatre, cruise ships, kind of like every area as possible, really. And that was another bucket list thing for me, to be an agent one day.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's why I was really keen to interview you, really, because obviously this is a lockdown special. So we wanted to sort of we wanted as many people from different aspects, different areas of theatre to talk about the lockdown and how it's affected them, maybe their businesses or their mental health, all these sorts of things. We've had an influx of people willing to talk to us, but I was keen to talk to you because, of course, you have all these different, should we say, you have your fingers in many pies, should we say. So how is lockdown treating you? What's been the biggest effect on your company and what have you?
I think the biggest effect, obviously, is loss of work, but, it's numbing. It's definitely a numbing feeling, but you can't get too down because it's affecting everybody.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody. So, if I sat here and just, twiddled my thumbs and did nothing, then you're in the wrong business, really, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've really taken this time to be really proactive, especially with the agency. And I think it doesn't matter even if you're not my client, you can take this advice. Use this time to go away and, sort out all your portfolio of songs, where maybe look at new monologues, look into contacts. You can reach out to your own friends and casting directors and producers, use social media. I'm really trying to help my clients by, building up something now, so when we are ready to go again, they're fully equipped with all the tools.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. Thank you very much. Right, everyone, that was the lovely Michael Quinn. What's your website again, sorry, Michael?
So we've got two. The agency website is www.qmanagement.co.
Right.
It is just CO. I'm really down with the kids. And the production company is www.michaelquinnproductions.com.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, and take care, Michael. Cheers.
Yes, thank you to Michael Quinn there for talking to Andrew. Next, we've very kindly got a recording from someone called Nadim Crow. The power of social media was able to get this one. So here is what Nadim had to say.
My name is Nadim Crow. I'm an actor from North London. I've been in shows such as Sunset Boulevard at the ENO and School of Rock. I've had a slightly unique insight into the last 7 weeks. As well as a performer in musical theatre, I also work as an emergency doctor in North London. So rather than quite a balanced life between medicine and the arts, as you can imagine, all of my time has been channeled into my work in A&E. It's been hard to watch friends feel isolated when, in a way, I've been in that luxurious position of being able to go to work, 5-6 days a week. Though work has been challenging, I think I would struggle if I'd lost the routine that I know a lot of people have lost. It's been really awful seeing friends in the arts, be they performers, producers, writers, suddenly lose work, have this time of huge uncertainty about what's to come. All I can say is that I hope the arts rise like a phoenix from this crisis. Often, I guess, crisis and conflict leads to the creation of amazing art and stories to be told, and I hope that this period creates new stories for us to tell when it's over. It will certainly take time for us to bounce out of this, but I'm sure that we'll come out of it stronger, and with an even stronger arts community that really defines London. Everybody stay safe, and I'll see you on the other side.
Nadim Crow there, thank you so much. Andy, it's interesting to hear a doctor's perspective. You have a doctor's story, don't you, that's quite relatable to your life this very second.
Oh, Caroline, I went out to the doctor's to get my prescription, and I brought a pork pie back, and Caris, my beautiful partner, just walked in the room and just went, "That pork pie."
What are you doing to me?
Oh,
You're a feeder.
I'm a feeder, apparently.
Is it from Bretton Newbury or whatever it's called?
It's not Melton Mowbray. It's from Bloomers, because we've got like 3 amazing bakeries, and possibly more in Bakewell, because that's what it's famous for, obviously. Bakewell puddings and all that, not tarts puddings. This is from Bloomers. They do an amazing pork pie with cheese and pickle on top. Oh, it's epic. It's epic.
Stop it.
I had to buy one because I've had to go on steroids recently. I've never been on steroids before, so I mean legally, not. I'm not trying to bulk up or anything. I just thought I'd give myself a little treat.
There might not be any left.
There might not be any left, she said.
Well, let's zip through these quickly so you can go and eat on a pork pie. Ralph Bogard, tell us about Ralph.
Ralph, lovely. I've only just met him. Absolutely lovely. I had a lovely chat with him and I did an interview with him. He's a really interesting person. He's one of the admins for Ensemble on Facebook, which is a group of, basically, if you're a performer working in the UK, I think maybe even worldwide, I'm not sure, but basically it's a support group for performers to go online and ask questions and sort of use like a community knowledge, as it were. It's a wonderful. He's one of the admins for it. That's why I was very keen to speak to him, because I wanted to talk to him about Ensemble, and he had a lot to say about the lockdown as well. So he's a very, very interesting person. And also we found out we had a lot in common. And he's also put me in touch with a composer, which I really want to talk to. So I'm joined by Mr. Ralph Bogard. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are. Although the Mr. is rarely used, but there we go.
And how are you today? Are you well?
I'm actually well today. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm very well. I understand you're performing tonight. You're doing something tonight. What are you up to?
I am. I've actually been invited to work to perform as part of a variety show with a theatre company I worked with many years ago, about 11 years ago actually. They're doing a sort of online show to raise money for Act for Change and the theatre fund. I've forgotten the names now. Sorry, this is really bad. I should know. But charities that are raising money for actors and people in the industry that are really struggling, and they're giving grants and bursaries to people. So it's to give to those charities, both in the US and here, to help other people and other artists that are struggling in this time.
Fantastic. What a lovely cause to do. Well done. That's absolutely brilliant to hear. So, Ralph, tell me a little bit about your background, about yourself, just for our listeners.
Okay, well, I'm from London. I'm a Londoner, but I studied in New York, actually. I went over to New York and studied at Strasbourg, and also with a teacher called Wyn Hanman, who had a studio in Carnegie Hall. And then I'd been sort of doing some Amdram originally, but then went to study and came back to London and was in Joseph, and I was in the original cast of Usher's The Front of House musical. I did Saucy Jack and the Space Vixens and the revival of Promises, Promises, and lots of other fringe shows and off West End shows and stuff like that. So I've done lots of musicals and plays as well.
I love Saucy Jack and the Space Vixens. It's one of my favourites.
Oh, I love it.
You're in that. I love that.
Yeah, I was Jack in the recent West End production of that. So
that's brilliant. And you've just been doing a play just before lockdown. Sorry, my dog's barking.
Oh, it's all right. I love dogs.
Sorry, I'm recording at home, and my dog is just—I'll probably edit that out, but my dog is just barking mad. So sorry about that. So yeah, you were just doing a play before the lockdown. Is that right?
Yes, I was. I just finished in February a production called The Process with a company called Baz Productions, and it was at the lovely Bunker Theatre, which actually just closed down. It wasn't closed due to COVID, just want to make that clear. It was already closing because the site was being redeveloped. It's a beautiful venue next to the Minier Chocolate Factory, a really dynamic, interesting place, and the play was called The Process, based on Kafka's The Trial, and it was done in a bilingual way, fully accessible and integrated with British Sign Language and English. It was a great production and a lovely company to work for, and that just finished in February. And then meanwhile I've been doing my sing-along Greatest Showman shows and Bohemian Rhapsody shows all around the country as well. I was doing lots of those all over as well.
Oh, fantastic. Bohemian Rhapsody, you say?
Yes, so I created and worked a lot with. I work at the Prince Charles Cinema. I'm their resident host, and I create a lot of the shows, the sing-alongs that people have done. So Greatest Showman. So I'm the bearded lady doing that all around the country, and Bohemian Rhapsody is the newest one that we've been doing with sing-alonger, and it's been great. It was great fun doing those.
Fantastic. Our listeners will know, of course, we were Rocky for many years, and Queen are my favourite band. I'm obsessed with Queen, so that's fantastic. That you're
Fabulous show, so much fun.
So I want to talk briefly about Ensemble, which is a Facebook page for performers. Anyone working in the industry, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's for performers that are working in the industry. It was created to cultivate a safe space for performers that have some that want support, looking for a community to be able to talk about the issues they might be facing as performers, and anyone. Mainly, it's more of a UK-based thing, but it's really a great place for people to come and talk about things that they are dealing with, or also just to if people are doing things on the side, like there's people that are trained, physical therapists, or and we're all gigging, aren't we? So we've all got space in between, and people are trying to support each other. It's created a network and a community of performers on Facebook, and also really to feed into Equity, our union, really some advice and information that we feel is really important for them to really understand, because sometimes, although musical theatre is an absolute behemoth within the industry and financially so important, sometimes our specific needs in musical theatre can sometimes get a bit lost. And this is a great way, because we've got a great bunch of people. It is a community. There's no real hierarchy. But there are some people that are involved heavily in Equity, and they feed back the information that they garner and the to help improve the agreements and the situations that we might be facing as a community.
That's fantastic, and you're one of the admins for Ensemble, of course, and you. That's absolutely fantastic. I really wanted to talk to you briefly about that, because I know that our listeners would be really interested to hear that we are, feeding back to things like Equity, big unions, and Bet2 and Salt and things like that.
Exactly.
It's a really interesting thing to, and thank you very much for being an admin. So I've just got a message. Except my computer. Of course it has. Even though I turn all these notifications off, it still finds a way. I turn them all off, and it finds a way to ping me every time. If I've got my headphones on and I'm working on music or something, it is obsessed with pinging me, and it drives me. But no, I do want to say thank you so much. And you're one of the admins for Ensemble, and I know it's a very selfless thing to do, and it's a very good thing that you're doing. So on behalf of myself, I've used it a couple of times. Thank you very much for that. It's brilliant just to be able to get on and just ask questions. It's wonderful.
Well, it's a bunch of us, and all the admins are working performers, and it was set up to create a community. We all need a bit of help sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to know where to go, and you just want to ask your friends, you know, and this is a great place to speak to other people that really understand what we do. It's lovely.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. So this is obviously, our episode is a lockdown special, if you like. We're just talking to performers about the lockdown, how it's affected their lives, and if you know, if anything they want to say, you know, to the work, to the audience out there, and what have you. So, how have you found lockdown? How has it affected you and the arts, and do you have an opinion on it?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of feelings. I think a lot of us do have a lot of feelings. Of course, yeah. I think the thing that's quite that we need to talk about a little bit is understanding that we're all dealing with a kind of a grieving process at the moment. I think that's not just in the sense of people, you know, sadly passing away, but also the fact that our kind of immediate future has been taken away from us. For example, you know, as far as I know, everyone that I know that was working in the West End were in shows or were planning to go into shows or had work lined up for the rest of the year. That's literally all gone, effectively, because we don't really know what's going to happen at this point. That's all gone. And that's a struggle to really understand because we don't have an end point in sight. And it's very difficult to process that.
Of course,
you know? Yeah. And I think a lot of people really talk about how creative they're being and how we're being celebrated. You know, Andrew Lloyd Webber is streaming shows every week, and the National is streaming plays, and we're seeing a lot of wonderful productions put on screen. But unfortunately, I feel like those productions and stuff are being celebrated, which they should be. But I don't think the understanding of the amount of effort and work and the kind of sacrifice we make as an industry and as people within the industry make that kind of work that everyone's enjoying. You know, they're getting all this stuff for free, which is lovely, but how is that how's that going to affect everything in the long term? Are people going to see it as something they should just get for free? And also the amount of work that goes into creating it, you know, everyone works very hard is basically what I'm saying. And it's not an easy industry to be in, especially in the UK. You know, we're not paid mega bucks, you know, despite what people think, we're really not. And we make a lot of sacrifices. We only get one day off a week, and it's not, you know, it's not just 3 hours a day. It's you know, it's physically and mentally really exhausting, and we work very hard. And to not have the security that other people might have in other industries, and to be kind of treated in a way that we have by our government with certain grants and stipulations that really a lot of our colleagues and peers are falling through gaps of government support financially has been really hard hitting as well. And I think because our industry is really misunderstood. So that's one part of it. But then on top of that, we now have this situation where we don't know what's coming in the future because no one knows. Of course. But we don't have that security. And what happens with that is we come into a place mentally where we really start to struggle. Because what do we say? What do? We don't know how to move forward. Do we try and find another job? Do we try and maybe shift careers? What do we do? And there is no one really knows what to do because we don't ever have security, but this has been amplified immensely by this COVID situation. And on top of that, there are loads of people that are being massively creative and doing all these lovely things, but there are a lot of people that are suffering that can't deal with that. And I think we have to really remember that it's important that it's okay to not be the most productive and creative person at this time. You know, we've got to be a bit kinder and look out for each other and understand that perhaps for some of us, it's just difficult to wake up and to just get on with the day, not knowing what's ahead. And maybe being creative isn't the most beneficial thing for that person right now. And that shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't be disappointed in that person or, you know, those people, because we're all suffering in various different ways and all coping in different ways.
So that was lovely. Thank you, Ralph. That was a very interesting and very, very poignant thing to say. I believe you wanted to talk to me about your teacher as well. Is that right?
Yes, if that's all right. I'll tell you why I'm bringing it up, because you know, on top of this kind of concept of grief that I was talking about, there are people that have actually sadly passed away, and one of them was my teacher, Wyn Hanman. He's been teaching since, you know, the 50s in New York. He had his studio in Carnegie Hall, and he was an eminent acting teacher and coach and director. He created the American Place Theatre, which really championed diverse writers that at the time were never being championed. He was really a force within theatrical landscape, especially in America. I was very lucky to study with him, and unfortunately he did pass because of COVID very suddenly. But he was 97, but he was teaching up until they went into lockdown. So he wasn't someone that was, had been diminished by age. So this definitely is an impact that COVID has had, and these kind of voices, and we're going to be hearing, sadly, really sadly, so many people that will be missing from our community after this. And I think it's really important to understand that there might be a lot of things that come up for a lot of us over the next few months and years, and we have to be careful not to pretend like this. Once we can go back to it, that we just suddenly go into a mega celebration, expect everyone to be really super happy, because a lot of us will be dealing with things. And I think it's important to just remember that. Of course, everyone's going to be thrilled that we can get back to performing and sharing all these wonderful performances and arts with an audience, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. But we also just need to be mindful that everyone's gone through a trauma, and I think we just need to remember that a little bit. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, but it's important. If we don't talk about it, then people don't know, do they? They don't think about it.
I completely agree with you. I think an open conversation is definitely needed with everyone, and I think also maybe some sort of performance. I think we should definitely all get together, as a performing community, and certainly find a way to celebrate these lives as well.
Absolutely, that's how we do it. We find something that moves us emotionally, if it's negative or what have you, and we turn it into something glorious. That's why musical theatre is so impactful and so moving to so many people. We find a way to make things lovely and and cathartic and emotion, and just sharing that experience with someone else is very healing. And I think that's why musical theatre has survived so many years and evolves and keeps evolving and has so many people that give up so much to do it. So we should really look after each other.
Absolutely, be kind. Ralph, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for talking to us today, and don't be a stranger. Please be in contact.
I won't. I'd love to come back and speak.
We'll definitely have you on again soon. All right. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
We're going to hear from Rosemary Ashe next. Rosie Ashe to us is a West End legend, famous for Carlotta in Phantom of the Opera, Witches of Eastwick, Mary Poppins, Les Mis. So she needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce her anyway. Rosie Ashe.
Rosie Ashe, lovely.
Hi, this is Rosie Ashe, or Rosemary Ashe as I'm known professionally. What am I doing during lockdown? Well, I've kept myself pretty busy doing the usual things, gardening, tidying up, doing singing practice, playing the piano, got my tap board out and really working hard on my time step every day, which gives a good workout, lots of walking, actually reading, watching things. I honestly haven't found a moment to be bored, really. I've had the odd day, like I'm sure some people have, where I've sort of thought, oh, can't do much today. And I think I had a big achievement the other day when I sewed a button on my duvet cover. But most of the time, I'm just getting on with it. I'm used to having quite a lot of time on my own because I've been on tours a lot, and I'm always pretty inventive. The walking has been great, though. Lots and lots of walks along the river. And, of course, Zooms and phone chats and stuff like that. So nothing particularly extraordinary, but I'm refusing to let this get me down. Cheers.
Now, working with Rosie Ashe once upon a time were George Stiles and Anthony Drewe, who very kindly sent us a message today. And as you'll hear, this is the first time that they've been together in 10 weeks. So let's hear that.
Hi, this is Stiles and Drewe. We're actually both together for the first time in about 9 weeks. We were working together in New York and both came home separately around about March the 12th and have been in isolation separately ever since. But this weekend, George managed to come down to see me in Kent, where we've been able to start working together again.
Prior to that, we had written a song for the Marconi Company's wonderful project, the micro musical about lockdown. We did that in our separate places, but if you go over to the Marconi Company's Instagram account, you'll see the song and you can learn it. You can even record a video of yourself doing it. But now we're back on Identical. We've written a new song for the second act, and we're making some edits and changes to other songs. Try and get ahead of everything for when everything picks up next year. Fingers crossed.
As you probably know, Identical was meant to have opened this summer in Nottingham Playhouse, and the whole project has now been put back exactly a year. So at least it's giving us the chance to do a bit more work and polishing on it prior to going to rehearsal this time next year. So we hope everyone is staying safe and well at home, and that it won't be too long before we're all able to go back to the theatre again. Okay? Take care for now.
We recently did Honk with the youth theatre. Well, last year we did Honk with the youth theatre. This year we did Guys and Dolls. This is Bakewell Youth Theatre that I help choreograph and teach the kids. And we did Honk, and they actually sent us a personalised message. Yeah. And they played the opening sequence and sang it a little bit for us for like a bit of encouragement for the kids before they did Honk. And it was just wonderful. Lovely people.
As you can hear from them, they are very open, and we know George hasn't been very well for about a year now, so we hope that he recovers.
Absolutely.
My good friend Thomas Ribbits. We all love Thos. Andrew, still one of the funniest podcast moments ever.
When I lost my
when you lost your metaphorical SH1T. When
he said wearing no trousers.
We had Tim Saywood. This is Tim Saywood on the mic, and then Thomas Ribbits said this is Thomas Ribbits wearing trousers, and then Andrew just fell about on the floor laughing, and then Tim said, and that's Andrew not managing to keep his on. Just one of the funniest moments of Musical Talk ever.
And it was just happened, didn't it? It was perfect. It was so funny.
Let's hear what Thos has to say.
Hello and welcome to this little bit of this episode of Musical Talk. I'm Thos Ribbits, and what you're going to get, in fact, is a little bit of Thos Ribbits. In fact, this is me putting the bit into Ribbits. Well, where are we? Well, of course, at the moment, at the time of recording, we're right in the middle of the coronavirus COVID-19 lockdown, and I, like everybody else, am in my house, and have been for a very long time. Or so it seems. But I'm not too downhearted, and I'm keeping myself entertained by listening to a lot of music, and a lot of music from musicals at that, as you might expect. And it was only the other day that I was struck by something quite surprising. I was listening, as you do, to the songs of the British film The Good Companions from 1957. They are not, on the whole, brilliant, but they're not, on the whole, terrible. But one of them particularly caught my attention. It's called Round the World in 80 Minutes, and it has this verse. I'm getting tired of being such a stay-at-home and spending every single night and day at home like this. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? The world is full of wonderful, inviting things. I want to find my way to those exciting things I miss. And that set me thinking, apart from being terribly relevant to the current quarantine arrangements, it did make me think, well, what am I missing the most? Well, one of the things I miss the most is the chance to have a night in the theatre, both to see drama and, of course, to see musicals. I did get a chance to see the fantastic Max Raber's Palast Orchestra when it did its national tour of Britain in March. I saw them at the Cadogan Hall in Sloane Square in London. And what a fantastic night it was. Little did I know at the time it was going to be my last night at anything faintly resembling a night in the theatre. And I think it must be because I'm missing those nights in the theatre so much that I've discovered, along with a lot of other people, the joys of digital theatre. Now, as you probably know, digital theatre is where theatrical productions which have already taken place and have been filmed are then re-released online, sometimes for fundraising purposes, particularly at the moment, and we must remember the industry which is suffering terribly, so if you can make a donation, please do, but also for the purposes of morale. And I must say, that's where it's been particularly tickling me. There are a whole raft of shows, straight and musical, all over the place, and I would recommend the What's on Stage website, as that has a regularly updated list of shows which you can catch as they become available. So, just to name 4 that I've watched very recently, I have seen and revelled in and enjoyed all over again the British production of Curtains, which was on national tour right up until recently, and indeed didn't quite make it to its last venue in Southampton because of the lockdown. But the people behind it released it online for 2 nights, and what a fantastic evening that was. It goes to show that actually lightning can strike twice, because I watched it once the first week, loved it so much I then watched it on its second digital showing the week afterwards. Everything about it was fantastic, although I particularly like to say a fantastic performance caught my eye by Samuel Holmes as the director. I had seen that show in December, and it was wonderful to see it again in the digital format. But the interesting thing about the digital format is that it makes you look at the thing in a very different way, because it's full of close-ups and things that are more cinematic. And so you watch the show in a way that you simply wouldn't in a theatre. That has its good points, it has its bad points. I don't think Curtains suffered at all. It was good in both speech marks formats. But I also watched the London production from Drury Lane of 42nd Street, starring the sainted Bonnie Langford. I absolutely adored it when I saw it at the theatre, and loved it again when I saw it online, on the website Broadway HD. I'd strongly recommend you go and have a look at that website, by the way. But the problem with it was exactly as I've said. Because it was more cinematic, the problem with cinematic productions is it's one step away. It's a little more Brechtian in that sense. There's a little more alienation from what you're seeing, less connection. And that's what I felt for 42nd Street. And regrettably, that's one of those shows that really needs the oomph of the theatre atmosphere to carry you across the fact that the plot isn't very good. However, the songs are, the performances are, and the show was still a fabulous night out stroke in. But I've also been trying to see shows that I don't know, or at least haven't seen. I know the Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire film Holiday Inn from 1942, with a fantastic score by Irving Berlin. But it's fairly recently been turned into a stage musical, and I caught up with that on Broadway HD as well. Now, once again, a fantastic show, fantastic performances, the songs were wonderful, and, well, close up, shall we say, in that cinematic environment, that plot just didn't hang together. But that's not really a problem. And this last week, well, I sat down and reacquainted myself with Elaine Stritch in her one-woman show, Elaine Stritch at Liberty, which played both Broadway and the London West End, about 17 years ago now, I think. Certainly the Old Vic production, which I saw at the time, was from 2003. And it was that London version of the show, which is available on Broadway HD. It was fantastic because, frankly, any time spent in the company of Elaine Stritch is well worth it. And this was one of those shows where the close-up, the cinematic approach really paid off, because you could see right into her face and all those subtle expressions which she was able to pull off. It was a remarkable performance and highly enjoyable. So that's what I've been doing in lockdown. Do spare a thought for the people in the industry. There's so much good work going out at the moment. If you feel you can make a donation to any of the many charities which are collecting to help those in the industry out, then please do. And to conclude my segment in this episode of Musical Talk, what's been my take-home song from the shows that I've watched from the comfort of my living room? Well, oddly, it's an Irving Berlin song. I always loved Irving Berlin, but his scores are deceptively simple in the sense that you think that song, marvellous though it was very, very simple, almost simplistic. But actually, his secret is that his lyrics are simple, but the structures of his songs are much more complicated. A good example of that is the song Lazy, which dawdles around and makes you think that not much is happening, but it never repeats itself. It's a very unusual structure. And you also don't think of the venerable Irving Berlin as having any kind of real sense of swing or even syncopation. Well, think again, because my take-home song, or perhaps in these days I should say my stay-at-home song, has been Marching Along with Time from Holiday Inn. Originally written in 1938, it was plopped into the Holiday Inn film score in 1942 and therefore has made it into the stage show. And I'm very glad it's there. It really sticks out as an unusual but fantastic Irving Berlin classic. And as the lyric says, time marches on, and so do I. So I'll hand you back to the rest of the episode.
Thank you, Thos, for that lovely message. Talking about Curtains there, which we're all enjoying the live stream musicals, aren't we, at the moment?
Yeah, I love it.
And Curtains has been up twice, which is great. Last time you and I met in person, your partner Karis had just been to see that Curtains tour up north, haven't she?
Yeah, I was planning to see it in Nottingham, which was the last venue, I think. I had tickets to that, but unfortunately... Fortunately, I couldn't see it.
Such a wonderful show. And all credit to Samuel Hope, is that his name that
yes.
Thos mentioned, playing the director part. But he was also the resident director or assistant director or something like that, funnily enough.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So it's been a bit of life imitating art there, which is really strange.
Fantastic, Alan Burkett, absolutely wonderful performer, and also Martin Callahan, who was who I did the Wizard of Oz with at the West End. He was the Cowardly Lion,
and a friend of mine called Leah Walsh, who very famous, not very famously, but she's an Arts Ed graduate. That's Thos. Thank you so much. We're going to end this lovely run of mini inserts with somebody you mentioned earlier who is called Victoria Lucie. Tell us about Victoria.
Yes, lovely. So I mentioned Tim Hode earlier on, Timothy Hode. Do check out his music, by the way, Timothy Hode Music on Facebook. He's one of the singers at Alton Towers I work with, and he's now one of my very close friends. He's absolutely wonderful. And his partner, Vicky, as well. She was a singer with me in Alton Towers Hotel, and she got a part in The Mousetrap, and she went down to move to London and start her new career. But unfortunately, the lockdown has sort of affected us all in different ways, obviously, and poor Vicky, bless her, she had to obviously come back, but she's a wonderful person, absolutely lovely. She's like my little sister. When we were working together, I would just try and do things just to annoy her, and you know what I mean, just try and make her giggle. She's absolutely lovely, and they're a lovely couple, Tim and Vicky.
Well, here's what she had to say.
So my name's Victoria Lucie. I am a actress, singer and model. I have been since I was 19, so that is about 6 years now. And I am completely self-made. I didn't go to drama school or study or go to university. I worked in a pub from 18 and just worked from the very bottom. And I'm really happy to say that my last job before coronavirus was playing Miss Casewell in The Mousetrap in the West End. That was my West End debut. It was an absolutely stunning experience to be part of a show that's just got so much history and just such a following was absolutely incredible. The audiences were lovely. The character was wicked. She was pretty badass. So yeah, I felt so privileged and full of joy to be part of that production. I was in it. It was meant to be for 6 months, but our contract was cut short by 3 weeks. So again, I feel, although it was a really sad and sudden ending, that it was a very lucky timing situation because it meant I got to do the bulk of my run, which was really, really great. So yeah, how lockdown's affected me, I think it has for pretty much all performers, all people backstage, producers, directors, everyone in and theatres in general. You know, it's just stopped, and that's the scary thing. I think the arts need support more than ever now and after. So when we are allowed to open, and hopefully when social distancing is no longer needed, perhaps people will realise the importance of theatre and need to go. But to be fair, I think a lot of people do already, and a lot of people are just going to be like crawling out going, I just want to go and see something live or experience something different. So I'm hoping there's a positive in this, that we will come back stronger. But yes, how it's affected me personally was, as I said, I was there, I was ready to do the show, and that was the night we got told that going to theatres wasn't a good idea. So we got told that particular show wasn't happening. And then from then on, a couple of days later, we were terminated, and that was that, because obviously a lot of theatres all at once, pretty much all of the West End shut. And we all had to sort of say goodbye, and it was all very strange. But the other interesting thing is that we don't know when we're going to go back to normal, as it were. So I think the scariest thing personally for me at the moment is kind of mentally coming to the realisation that I probably won't work this year. Or if I do, I'll be very grateful. Even with my modelling and things, which is usually on an independent basis, I'll have to wait until social distancing is reduced a bit again, because you do need to get up close and personal. We all do. It's a very tactile industry. You know, especially for acting together or creating poses together. There's just no way around it. And also, theatres can't survive with that in place, because the capacity of theatres would be about a third of what they should be, and it's not financially viable to allow that to happen. So I think my advice for you at this strange time is to use it as a bit of nostalgia. Have a look at what you got up to in the last few years, how much you love performing, create things, make things. I haven't sung for a while because obviously I was in a straight play and living in digs, so I didn't really sing. And I've started singing every week, and I post a video once a week, one song a week, and record it properly, and it's great fun, and it keeps your hand in. Write things if you're a writer, plan things if you're a producer. Do all of the things that you always put aside, your own creative endeavours, and just absorb yourself in them, and take it slow. You know, make sure you exercise a little bit, make sure you cook some good food, and just sort of take each day by day. Also, if you haven't already and you're eligible, definitely apply for the self-employed help scheme. Obviously, most performers are self-employed, so if you're eligible, I definitely recommend that. I did that the other day, and I think it's really important that we get the help we need at this crazy time. So that's it from me. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this is the right vibe, Andy. Tell me if it's not, I'll do another one. And I just hope that you all stay safe, look after yourselves, stay positive, chat to people, make things, create things, and we'll be just fine, and we'll come out a lot stronger. Bye.
Well, Andy, this has been an absolute joy. It reminds me, of course, of the early days of Musical Talk. Hopefully we'll have you on again next week, because we're going to be interviewing the writers of Six. Six is it's a cultural phenomenon, really. I mean, everyone has heard of it. You're a massive history buff, so hopefully you can come up with some good questions.
Yes.
Andrew, thank you so much for your help with this episode. It's been an absolute joy. And again, to all our listeners, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you stay indoors and you stay safe. And we hope, it'll be very interesting to cover this whole period as the theatre industry changes undoubtedly forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone stay safe, keep washing your hands and all that. Do what the baked potato said, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. For more information about Musical Talk, please visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk. You can email us at feedback@musicaltalk.co.uk, listen to past episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and follow our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Yay! I have to go and edit this.
Marvellous.